Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Human Nature Podcast. I'm Jamie Clements.
I'm Loui Blake.
And today, and you might have noticed if you're watching this on YouTube as well, I just want to call this out because we were just talking about it. We are wearing the same clothes.
We are.
The reason for that being
We have washed.
We have washed. We're recording some of these on the same day, behind the scenes. And also, I'm wearing my acid running gear, which Loui isn't, which is fine because I am. So Ollie,
I've been running
shout out.
a lot
You
in
have.
my acid running gear.
It
Jamie
is-
clearly doesn't run, so
I don't. I am the casual runner in the background where I just wear it to lift. But
it's so good to run. I only run in acid, basically.
I tell you what,
but I have been running a lot.
what I've noticed with it, and we'll do a proper acid ad later. It doesn't pick up smell,
No.
and it's so comfortable. But in this episode, we're not talking about smells. We're talking about our conversation with the wonderful human being that is Africa.
I will go
Brooke.
on camera and on
On
record
record.
as saying that's one of the best conversations I've ever had, and we're getting nods from the team as well. It was
They have to
genuinely, they're paid to nod.
Paid to nod.
It was genuinely one of the best conversations I've ever had, recorded or otherwise.
Mm.
And I think I was able to mirror the vulnerability that was shared by both of you. And it ended up being almost like a therapy session for the three of us
Very
in
much so.
motion.
Yeah, and I've not had, and this is an interesting reflection just on sort of me and podcasts in general. I'm quite good at putting on my podcast head and like thinking about what I'm saying a bit much. And I'm really glad actually through this whole season that I've been able to put that a little bit to one side and just show up very much.
Forgetting the cameras are
authentically,
rolling.
forgetting
right?
it's rolling. And I think that's where you create good conversation from on a podcast. You guys let us know if that is the case or not.
All right, favourite moment then. Let's go straight into it.
But what I was going to say on that, just very quickly, was I teared up at one point.
Yeah.
And I can't think of any conversation I've had on a podcast or kind of recorded conversation where I felt that level of emotion. I think it's just testament to what we created and what Africa brought to the table as well. Highlight for me, I don't know if it's a highlight, more like a confronting realization, which was Africa's point around in relationships, the nature of weaponizing her intellect. And I'd never even considered myself doing that, and I can see as clear as day, and it's the beauty of therapeutic conversations like that is the blind spots that are illuminated where I go, wow, the number of times I have done that.
Same.
Through fear, through defensiveness, through it's a defense mechanism when I feel like I am being told that I'm not enough. I go, well, I'll show you because I can articulate this in a way that makes sense to me and is eloquent and using the right terminology and using all of this knowledge that I've built over the last few years. But it's not vulnerable. There's no vulnerability in that. And
seeking to win a conversation or win an argument rather than reach a point of truth, right? It's like, are we against each other here, or are we working together to understand something? And one's in fear and one's in love. I recognize the same. For me, it was a step further where my ex-partner, didn't speak English as a first language. And therefore, the weaponizing of that intellect went a step beyond just purely intellect. It was the fact that I have a better hold of English than you, I think. And therefore, I will use this against you to win the argument, which is so rooted in fear.
Yeah.
And there was a moment where she said that, and I was like, it really rang true. There was something else she said as well, which hit me as much as that, if not more so. And it was the idea that very often in my case, a woman is expressing something being wrong, my immediate need is to fix the problem before I hear the problem.
Yeah.
Right. So when it's put to me that I have a problem with X or I'm really struggling with Y, my immediate reaction has always been to, I can fix it like this.
Yeah.
When what was needed from that person was more, I hear you, I'm here for you, tell me more. Like just being a witness to that, to that challenge. And just the immediate realization was was confronting. It's like, wow, I've had so many opportunities to learn that, and I've only just learned it now in this conversation.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting because there's something, and we've talked a bit about this of late, there are some things that you can only realize on the other side of a relationship and in hindsight. And there was something in there for me as well around this need to be good, this need to be seen as good. And again, similarly for me, I think when partners in the past have raised something they're unhappy with, I'm so quick to defend because I'm making it mean so much about me. And one of the things that I kind of was sat with and have heard a number of times over the years but never really understood, which is a really helpful tool actually in the moments where a partner in this case is raising an issue or something they're unhappy with, is to essentially repeat it, play it back to them. What I'm hearing is, this is what you're unhappy with. Is that right? Can you help me understand why? And actually diving into the why rather than going, no, I'm not. That's not what I was doing. You've misunderstood that. Or how can I fix it? Actually just going, let's talk about that.
It's taking the tool from Johnny's episode around energy state.
Yeah.
Ensuring we're in the energy state to receive something that's confronting, and that our response is from that place of love and understanding as opposed to being triggered or anything else. It wasn't all relationships though. No. There were some other bits which I didn't expect. But one of the things that Africa said, which I love, which is like, I'm fucking good at that.
Yeah.
And it was so empowering because maybe it's a very British thing, right? But we're so bad at acknowledging our strengths, and we joke about our weaknesses, but we find it very easy to speak about things we're not good at, or make fun of ourselves in respect of things that we're maybe not so good at. So hearing someone own the fact that they're good at something unapologetically gives permission for all of us to recognize the things we're good at and celebrate it. Because there's a lot of things we're not good at, but there are things that we are uniquely good at. And by owning those things, it's not lording it over people. It's not using it. It's simply recognizing that I've worked on that and I'm good at it. And this is where this is where I'm at with this.
Yeah.
So hearing her say that was really cool.
Yeah. It's something that I still find, not as much as I used to, but still find a bit triggering, even hearing other people say it. I'm like, because I've always had this very sensitive, what I would call my internal arrogance alarm. You know, arrogance for me is this real shadowy thing where I never want to be that.
It's a fine line though, isn't it?
Very fine line. And I think for me, my journey with confidence, still working through a lot of this stuff, has been around letting go of that over attachment to not being arrogant, because I think you can repress something so much that you start repressing the lighter side of it, the confidence, the self-acceptance. And I find it interesting that I still feel that though when someone else is like, I'm fucking good at what I do.
I feel it as well, because it's a mirror, right? It's showing you where maybe you're not comfortable. I feel it as well.
Yeah.
Again, there's a balance. Are you feeling it because the person is acting from a place of arrogance and that doesn't sit well with you? Or are you feeling it because you're triggered because you're not able to do that?
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be arrogance, right? It can be, and again, it's like, can you meet that with compassion? Because the only reason that person feels the need to project that in an arrogant manner, which essentially is meaning that you're celebrating something that isn't necessarily perhaps true in reality, is because you are suffering.
Yeah.
And you need to project that onto the room or onto me. And then it's like, rather than meeting that with, hate or even compassion, can you meet it with indifference?
Yeah.
It's like, okay. Which is the aspiration, right? It's almost like this conscious indifference to the way other people behave, and recognition of the fact that it's not me that's causing them to behave how they're behaving, it's them.
Yeah. And there's, it's ironic, something that's popped into my head, ironically arrogant to think it's anything to do with you. It's deeply narcissistic to think that it's to do with you. Like, this person sharing this is that's because of me, right? Yeah, because it's all about me, because the world completely revolves around me.
Sure.
I want to come back to relationships.
Okay.
Because I forgot the point I wanted to make earlier, and I've just remembered it. So we're going to bring it all the way back around, which is something that
Killing me.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was interesting that Africa shared she recently went through a breakup.
Yeah.
I recently went through a breakup.
#me too. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So I'm happy to go back there.
All right, let's go there. Yeah. Really interesting reflection from a book I've read recently called The Heart of Zen. A lot of Zen philosophy, and something I'm super interested in at the moment. But this book is very much rooted in modern applications, and like, how do we take ancient Zen philosophy and actually make sense of it in the modern world? And the biggest thing that stuck with me from that was a conversation about jealousy, a very common feeling and experience in relationships. And we can think, if we want to be this enlightened, self-aware, compassionate being, that we shouldn't feel it. And firstly, the reflection was, there will always be times where you feel things that you don't want to feel. There'll be uncomfortable experiences and emotions. But very often, the response to that feeling of jealousy, he gave the example of his partner wanted to dance at this salsa event, and he doesn't dance. And so she went and danced with this guy who's like a dance instructor, amazing dancer, and they had this incredible experience of dancing. And he felt this really strong pang of jealousy. Now, the gut instinct for most people would be to make it about your partner and to make it about anger. And you go, I don't want you to dance with. What were you doing dancing with that person like that? And obviously there will be predefined boundaries, ideally in any relationship, as to what the line is. And if a line's been crossed, then fine, the boundary's been crossed. But actually, if a boundary hasn't been crossed and that jealousy is coming up for you, there's a level of like radical ownership of going, this isn't about them, this is mine. But then the next step was to go, what is underneath that jealousy? 2 core emotions, fear and caring. You wouldn't be feeling that jealousy if there wasn't a level of fear and a level of caring / love. That understanding for me goes, you can completely change how you communicate to your partner about what you're feeling. It's not about pushing it down, shaming yourself for feeling the jealousy. It's about going, my love, that made me feel this way because it made me afraid that I might lose you to this other person, and I deeply care about you, so I don't want that to happen. That isn't going to create an argument. Going, what the fuck are you doing dancing with him like that? That's going to create conflict, and that's not what you want. And so actually, how can you really own, again, it comes back to those moments of someone maybe sharing something they're unhappy with in you. How do you sit back into like, what am I actually feeling, and why am I feeling it? And how can I communicate it from a place of I rather than a place of you? And I just found that really, really powerful as something that I've reflected on recently of like, it's simple. It's not easy, but it's simple just to shift into that place of, is it fear? Is it caring? And can I communicate it from that place?
I think it's an over-identification with being the person who is stoic, calm, unaffected. And therefore, of course, when those emotions come up, which are contrary to that identity, that's where we start to feel that fear even more, right? It's because not only am I feeling jealous, I'm also feeling angry that I'm feeling jealous.
Yeah.
And then the suppression comes in, and suppression of emotion can manifest in different forms.
Yeah.
And it speaks to awareness, speaks to communication, and those as foundational principles for being in a relationship with someone. As Africa shared, like the communication piece being so important as a practical tool. Can you create spaces where you can communicate completely openly? I think I shared that after the relationship ended was the time when I felt able to communicate without the pressure of maintaining the relationship, which as a result caused me to not communicate fully because I was worried about risking the relationship. Yeah. The irony in that is that finally when you have that conversation, you realize, well, that doesn't jeopardize the relationship. In fact, it actually brings us closer because now we're seeing each other fully, as opposed to me sitting in the image of who I think you need me to be.
Well, this is it. And I was just about to raise that same point of like when the perceived stakes are increased from commitment or labels on a relationship, and sort of this modern understanding of traditional kind of monogamous relationships, where it's very much like this merging and in some ways kind of ownership, and very much like, I don't want to lose this because this matters immensely to me. And actually that elevates the stakes to a place where a lot of people struggle to show up vulnerably. I've experienced this myself. You know, there's a lot of fear of losing the thing that you wanted so badly. And so you go, well, I can't possibly tell them that. I can't possibly share that vulnerability, because what if they leave? And it's that abandonment fear where you go, how do you move beyond that? And it's again, it's that acceptance and that piece of like, how do I want to show up? What is my energy state? What is my intention? How do I want to be in this dynamic? And coming from that place rather than that place of fear and lack, so that you can have that open and full depth of vulnerability that ultimately we're all striving for in relationship and in life, without the need for the relationship to change its label or end.
Relationship is such a fundamental theme within well-being.
Yeah.
Because you can use the thought experiment of how meaningless anything would be without relationship, without somebody to share it with in any format. This doesn't necessarily constitute a romantic relationship, but that holiday, that experience, that thing that you have is has so much less meaning when there's no one to share it with. You call it the I Am Legend experiment, right? Will Smith's got the sports car racing through New York City, but no one's alive other than those weird zombie things that are trying to get him, right? When he loses the dog, that relationship, like, you start to think about that. It's like, wow, actually, everything has meaning because it can be shared and witnessed together even. So when we were outside the other night with the stars, it's like, this is pretty cool, but it's even more cool that I can turn to the group and say, look at that, and we can share it together. So I think, you know, someone might be thinking, well, what's relationships got to do with well-being? Everything.
And to come back to some of the stuff we've talked about in some of the other episodes, this idea of personal ownership of energy state as well, which is a great quote that maybe we'll end on, which is, I can't remember, we'll put it in the show notes whose quote it is, because I'm not going to claim it as my own, but it's this idea of the purpose of relationships isn't to find someone to complete you, but to find someone to share your completeness with. And I think a lot of people nowadays, and I've certainly been guilty and liable of this in the past, we're seeking that relationship to fill the hole, to fill the void. It's not to fill the hole. That's a different conversation. But to fill this void inside of ourselves, you've got to bring humor in. You've got to bring the humor in. This void inside of ourselves to complete us, and that will fail 10 times out of 10. And so it's about, you know, own your shit, know yourself, know your boundaries, know what you need, express that, but keep coming back to that energy state and taking ownership for that. Heavy.
But necessary.
Yeah. All right, guys, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much for joining us, Loui. Thank you, as always, my man. And we'll see you again next time.